welcome in to a brand new episode of Why So Sidious a Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, David. Here with me tonight are my co-hosts, Caleb and JD, and of course, our special guest, Andy from the Galactic Core Podcast. Andy, thank you for joining us here this evening for your first time.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Oh, we're doing the helmet things. Oh, okay. Pick one. Somebody pick one.
Oh, come on. Battery's dead. That's unreal. Obi-Wan, you're suspended. Two things. Wrong color and the battery dies. That's crazy. I don't have any masks, man.
Mando.
You guys are dicks.
Dave, you've lost control of the podcast.
All right. Anyways, thank you for joining us here tonight at our Mask Expo. We are covering Daredevil, Born Again.
Vigilante.
Season 1. Caleb, please don't interrupt me, for God's sake. We're covering Daredevil Born Again Season 1. We have been wanting to cover this with Andy for quite some time. You can shout out Caleb there. We haven't had it done yet. Caleb, I know your headphones aren't on, but I hope you can hear me right now. We've been wanting to chat Daredevil for a long time with Andy here. And if we do still end up doing the Season 2 episode, he will be joining us. But we finally have another reason, another way to record with Andy and to discuss Daredevil and Punisher, because we got Punisher in this episode. We wanted Andy to come on the episode where we got Punisher conversations happening. So we got a finale here. I thought it was a pretty solid finale, so obviously full spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched it, what are you doing? Go watch it. Excuse me. But yeah, we're going to get into it. We'll discuss it. Overall thoughts of the season, maybe where it compares to previous Daredevil seasons. So we'll give you a quick recap in case you're listening to this 3 months ahead of time or down the road. So episode opens up. Matt just got shot last episode. He's in the hospital, and Kingpin orders Buck to go kill Matt in the hospital. Meanwhile, sets up an elaborate plan to take control of the city and enforce martial law, starting with a citywide power outage. Matt escapes the hospital to find Frank in his apartment, and we get a fun back and forth before we see them gently dispatching the anti-vigilante task force, before Karen, our old friend, rolls up to provide a ride home. Kingpin's mini-me sits the suits who aren't down with Kingpin in a room and informs them of the blackmail they have on everybody. Karen and Matt dive deeper into Foggy's case and make some discoveries as to why Vanessa had him killed. Frank, for some reason, lets himself get caught by his fanboys in classic Frank fashion. He loves being tied to chairs, and he loves to do it intentionally. This is like the 4th time we've seen him do this, so he obviously has a plan. Kingpin finally shows us who I've always known Heather to be, which is a dirty, no-good rat, right after squishing some skull with his bare hands. He then officially puts the city under martial law and proceeds to take Veronica through his vigilante dungeon prison. It was a very nice date they had. And at the end here, Matt starts to recruit a team that will help them take back the city. And we get a nice little post-credit scene of Frank gently bending a gentleman's arm and freeing himself from his engagement there. Yeah. I really enjoyed this episode. I think it was my favorite episode of the season, which I think a lot righted on that. I was saying if it's not my favorite episode of the season, did the season land? Yes, to an extent, but it would have taken away from it. So I'm very glad that I can say it was my favorite episode of the season. I thought it didn't do everything right. Still had some issues. It did not wrap things up that I would have hoped it would. Still some stuff missing there, but overall, I was satisfied with the finale. Andy, we haven't had to talk with you about Daredevil, so give me your overall thoughts about this finale here.
So I think my issue is I elevate these shows in my mind to the fact where my expectations are maybe a bit too high and I expect too much. I think the more I've thought about this, I had to obviously take into account that this was a season that was split into 2 in terms of how a lot of it was shot, and so therefore it was never going to be a wrapped up ending that I like. I like each season to be almost contained, and so it was always going to go across the 2-season story. I thought there could have been more action in this finale in terms of fights and stuff like that. I predicted there was going to be an all-out fight between the Task Force, Bullseye, Punisher and Daredevil, and maybe someone like Vanessa or Heather getting caught in the crossfire and being unalived. That didn't happen, so I was a bit disappointed at that. I was surprised we got no Bullseye really, apart from that little scene at the end just showing where he was. I thought that was a bit of a shock. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more action in this finale, to be fair. At first, I didn't get Frank's decision to walk into Red Hook and take on the task force by himself. Normally goes in completely strapped up and will just take out all these guys. We've seen him do it before. But then you realise, okay, he's got a plan. There was a reason he was captured and that he's wanted himself being taken in. Even though the task force technically went against what Fisk wanted, which was to unalive him. And he decided they decided to try and talk him into joining their side, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. We admire you. You think you know my pain? So yeah, overall, I was still happy with the finale. Just that chemistry between Frank and Matt is so phenomenal. It carried this episode, I think, more than it maybe should have done because of the lack of action and stuff like that. I would have liked to have seen a couple of cameos as well. I thought we were going to get a Jessica Jones cameo because I know that Kristen Ritter had been posting some cryptic stuff about her Jessica Jones outfit and stuff like that when they'd previously filming. Obviously, I think that's maybe been saved for season 2. But yeah, overall, I would say I'm happy with the finale, knowing that it was going to roll over to the next season. It wasn't going to be a wrapped up storyline. Again, slightly disappointed that we didn't get enough action, and I thought there'd be maybe a couple of character deaths in there. But I can confirm that I absolutely despise Heather now.
The worst. I knew it. I could freaking sense it. I did not like her. JD, what did you think? Overall thoughts on the finale? How did it land for you? Yeah, you're muted, but I bet you're saying some really interesting things.
No, I wouldn't bet on that at all, actually. No, I loved it. I think it's right below, Netflix season 1 and 2, maybe even better than Netflix season 3, but I'll have to think on that. I love how the whole theme of the episode was both of Kingpin and Daredevil being born again into their full roles as their character. I love how in those last 2 episodes we saw how far Matt will go to be a hero in saving a villain, and then how immoral, unethical Kingpin, how much of a villain Kingpin is, how far he will go to kill a man who just saved his life. So they're both born again, and you see it clear as day, like how far they're willing to go to commit to their side, and it's really beautifully done. I loved how comic-y this. We're not doing the whole season talk. The finale, I thought there was a lot of action, Andy. There was a kill count, man. One thing I did expect was, like you did say, like an all-out war. I expected Bullseye to fight Punisher. I was excited for that specifically. I was really excited because they almost kind of, just having the Punisher say that dude's name made me think they were going to fight at some point in this season. From the set photos that were leaked, it looked like there was an all-out war, like on the streets of New York, not in an apartment building. I get what you're saying in one sense. I expected New York to be in flames, but I did appreciate the action. I thought the action was very satisfying when the Punisher fully broke out. Matt's just letting him kill. I thought that was interesting. Like he complained a couple times, but he didn't go as far as he goes in other shows, previous seasons. He goes really far to stop killing, and it's kind of, a lot of killing happening around him. He's going with it. Things are getting real dark for Matt, and he's starting to really commit to more of a darker Daredevil path, which is much more like the comics. His life is starting to just go into shambles, which is much like the comics. His dude's never happy, so it's a little more comic accurate. And I am also pissed, sorry, that it didn't wrap much up. We talked about that, Dave, how there's a ton of these storylines, like which ones might be wrapped up, and almost none of them except that police commissioner getting his head just spaghettied. That was the only thing that really got wrapped up. Now he's not going to be helping Urich's niece, write her stories about the corruption of Fisk. But I don't like that the whole season is only set up for another season. I really, like Andy said, I want a complete product for a season. And even Dave and I were saying that before this episode. Like Disney Plus MCU shows never give you a complete story for a season. It's always leading to something new, which is annoying in its own right. But overall, it was a really, really fun finale.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that later. Lub, how did it land for you?
I enjoyed the finale.
Yeah, okay.
I'm kind of, when it comes to the action, I'm kind of in the middle between Andy and JD. I feel like Frank really stole the show, which was kind of weird. Having Daredevil shot in the chest in the penultimate episode, probably not the best decision. And then, he was kind of injured while fighting a little bit, but he still did pretty well. And then kind of just brushed it off for the rest of the episode. But it was Frank. Like, Frank really stole the show in the finale, which is kind of weird for a Daredevil season, But yeah, they didn't. I agree with you guys. They didn't tie up very many storylines. It was definitely a lot of setup and cliffhanger for the next season.
Yeah, and I'll give them a slight pass just because it started as a 20-episode season, and it was such a mess that they had to pick and choose a bunch of parts. And like Andy, you said, they might be saving Kristen Ritter for season 2. So I think that's the only excuse I'll give them for not tying up everything in one season. It seems like they kind of had to split it into 2, but they could have easily wrapped up some of those storylines. They could have kept the overall arc going.
I'll say it's It's on us, dude. That's just the Marvel formula now. Like, we can't expect that from them. We really can't. So it sucks because outside of Marvel television, a season should be a complete story, more or less. But yeah, we shouldn't expect that ever from Marvel.
I'll say, I mean, WandaVision had a complete story.
Good point.
Moon Knight kind of did. I mean, they wrapped up everything, so it did. It actually teased into a continuation of a new story, actually. So it did wrap up that. But no, for even some shows that aren't Marvel do that too. Not as much though. Even The Boys wraps up season storylines and starts a totally new storyline in the next season there. And Netflix did with Daredevil too. Again, season 1 and season 2 were totally different stories. Season 3 was a totally different story, but with solid continuations from the previous.
Or even do what Game of Thrones did, where the penultimate episode settles everything, and then you have the finale as the setup for the next episode. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a good formula.
They're perfect.
I think it's just me showing my age from the 90s and 2000s, where everything used to be wrapped up in one season. And then mid to late 2000s, they started this trend where it would leave off on a cliffhanger, and then you'd resolve it in the opening episode or two of the next season. And then they'd start the next...
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking Stargate as well, to be fair. Used to wrap everything up in a season, and then they started about halfway through doing everything in terms of a cliffhanger, wrap it up in the first episode or two of the next season, and then start a new storyline again. And now it's just constantly, everything's a setup for the next season, or everything's left on a cliffhanger. And then you end up with a bunch of shows getting cancelled. Everything's left on a cliffhanger. So it's just annoying.
Everything's becoming a Walmart, dude. Our medicine, our schools, our movies. It's just homogenized, watered down bullshit.
You could follow Titan's
solid season
strategy there and do a full season in season 1 and have the finale for season 1 be in the first episode of season 2 for some reason. I don't know if JD remembers
the
that.
weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Entire thing with Trigon and Nightwing and everything, and the finale ends like it was second or third to last episode, and then the first season of season 2 is literally the finale of season 1. It was like, wait, and then it started a new storyline in episode 2. I was like, what the hell just happened there?
That was weird.
It was a weird
They're
one.
on crack.
It was a weird one. Other than that, season 1 Titans wasn't bad. But anyway, let's get back to Daredevil. We'll get into the episode here. Oh, just go through some of the key highlights and whatnot. That's interesting. Oh, never mind. I'm dumb. So Matt escapes the hospital pretty easily, obviously. Buck comes in with the death syringe. Matt slips out. And he gets to his apartment. And he sits down. I feel like we all knew it. I don't know. I knew it was going to be him when he sat down and he said, you were pretty much the last person I expected to be in my apartment. And it's Frank. Frank Castle's waiting for Daredevil there and calls him Pajama Man or something. I don't know. He made some corny joke about what he was wearing from the hospital. But we got some good back and forth banter between Frank and Matt. And they're talking about, these guys are coming up. And Frank's like, just so you know, when those clowns come up, I'm not playing patty cake with these fanboys. I'm chopping them up. You got me? So yeah, it's not
back into it.
Not exactly the type of help I want, Frank. But like you said, JD, so we get this crazy fight scene. It pops off. And in other seasons, I was expecting Matt to hit him with a baton, Frank, because he was killing people. I was really expecting him to start hitting him and Frank, them get in a fight. It was so nice for Matt to just keep fighting and beating up other people while Frank is... The opening... So Matt jumps down in between 4 people and starts, tactically fighting each one of them. Skips to Frank, who's on the balcony, and just blows the dude's head off with his shotgun from behind. Just so literally, good. I mean, it showed the whole thing. It blew forward straight out of his skull. I laughed so hard that Matt's just fighting and Frank's just waiting and blows a guy's head off and then comes in, just starts slow motion killing these dudes. Matt yells out, Frank, stop. He pins the guy's head to the table and just unloads the clip right after he says, Frank, stop. He just unloads an entire clip. And I think that was pretty much like, yeah, okay, Frank's not going to stop. Maybe I'll just focus on fighting here. And Daredevil was not just disarming people. He was maiming these guys in this. He was sending hooks through them, impaling them. He slammed that dude's head against the wall, and there was a blood splatter, kind of like Batman's warehouse scene in Batman vs. Superman. I mean, he was getting gnarly. He was definitely permanently hurting these men. I just had an absolute freaking blast with this scene. All the way to the dive. Frank dives sideways, catches Cole North's hand against the wall. And Matt's like, Frank, no, he's not worth it. How about him? He worth it? Just shoots a guy who's barely breathing.
So good.
Oh, dude, Frank I love him. I love Frank Castle. This scene ended, and I said, I don't care Frank Castle over John Wick any day. Frank Castle is my go-to guy, dude. The guy is an absolute legend. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. John Bernthal's Punisher. He's just amazing, dude. Then grenade comes in, they jump out the window, call each other assholes. It was just such a fun scene. So, Love, did this tickle your fancy here? You better say yes. You don't really have an option here. But how'd you like the scene?
Oh, I loved it. Of course I did. Before I get into it, how does he know that Frank got a haircut?
That's a good question.
He smelled the fresh cut hair like grass.
Actually,
No, the way the wind, dude.
Yeah,
you can like hear
probably.
wind. It flows in the wind, Doug. That's easy to hear for a blind man.
no wind resistance anymore.
But when Matt walks away right before the task force shows up and he says, "You're not going to do it with your ass hanging out," as he's like screaming away. It's so funny.
He had so many good lines.
And I love when he calls him Red too. That's like such a good nickname. Hey, Red. But yeah, just the brutality. I was very surprised to see that type of goriness on Disney Plus, MCU. Like have we seen anything like that in the MCU? No, right?
Deadpool.
I mean, yeah.
Deadpool, yes.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
cheating.
Okay.
Nothing
And
as
even-
gross as the spaghetti face, man. That was gnarly.
that was a beyond Deadpool. That
like
face
too much,
crunch is-
a little too much for me. Even I was just like, man.
No,
But
it was
Frank
an
and
MCU
Matt
series
are
first.
probably
yeah.
my favorite duo in the MCU.
Yes.
Like with like Thor and Loki or whoever you want to put them up there against it. Like they're so good back and forth together.
Dude, I swear they wanted to top the car door scene. They're like, how can we top the car door scene? How do you explain that? What did he do?
Hydraulic pressed a melon with his hands. Like, oh,
How do you
God.
tell that to a person? What did Kingpin do to that man? He squeezed his
He
face in
mounted
half.
him.
Practical effects too.
Oh, it looked great. Well, for some of it did. The upper half of the head, I didn't understand
Someone
how it
sacrificed
happened.
their life.
Bottom half
Yeah,
of it looked
They
pretty
didn't
good.
hurt any animals to make this movie, but
They're called stuntmen, Lub.
Yeah.
they're expendable.
Seth Meyers in the chat, by the way, says the table curb stomp, which was another great finishing. There were a lot of great finishing moves in this
Did
fight.
he cut the guy's heart out?
Dude, I think it was his intestines. He cut
Or like
something
his
out.
tongue? It was his tongue or his
I thought it was
heart
like
or
his
something.
throat or something. He just completely
was
Might have been his
slapped-
tongue.
Dude, he ripped it, threw it out, the guttural. That was gnarly.
What are we
That
talking
was-
about? Rambo? What is this?
Frank in the episode.
Oh,
you didn't
yeah,
see that kill
yeah.
shot? He ripped the dude's intestines out. It was.
I don't remember
pretty
intestines,
gnarly.
but I'm gonna be like, yeah, dude. Yeah,
I'll send you the
crazy.
clip. Don't worry. Andy,
Intestines.
being the Punisher guy you are, how did this scene? I know you said there wasn't enough action, but this scene here, how did it work for you?
I fucking love this scene, to be fair. It's
Thank you.
absolutely great. Like, yeah, just straight from when Matt walks into the apartment and he's got a smirk on his face because he obviously knows Punisher's there straight away. Sat down, and those two have always had the best chats. They've had some of the best sort of philosophical chatting scenes in all of the MCU now. And just their banter interaction between the two of them because they love each other and hate each other at the same time. And so, yeah, in the action, I mean, I love Frank when he's like you said, he's like, I'm not going to play patty cake with these guys. I'm chopping them up. And Matt's just like, really? But I think the reason Matt kind of lets him do this a bit is because Matt himself is obviously injured. He's been shot. He's recovering. He's still a bit drugged up, which is interesting that he's been shot and drugged up, and he's still better than the task force.
Yeah.
Absolutely whoops ass. But yeah, so I think that's the reason why he kind of lets Frank get away with what he does, because he's a bit fucked up himself. So he's like, I can't really stop Frank and defeat the task force at the same time. Yeah, that introduction of Frank just walking off the balcony, shooting the guy in the head, unloading the clip in the guy's head, and then just jumping over that counter, stabbing the dude. And it's just because I don't know if about you, we watched stuff with subtitles, and it's just like, it just says flesh squelching underneath. It's like copious amounts of blood spurts, and it's just brilliant in the subtitles as well. But yeah, just and like you said, that bit where like he's trying to egg him on to shoot Cole North, to kill Cole North, and he's just like, you see Matt, he's like fighting with it, and he's like, go on, do it, Red. And then he's like, you're gonna save this, take a bullet for this asshole too. And like you said, he just turns around and just shoots the other guy. What about this guy? And it's just absolute quintessential Frank for me in terms of just like, don't give a fuck, doesn't care. He's just like, I'm gonna kill all these people whether you like it or not. And then, yeah, obviously the dive off the balcony, and then just the walking at the end, and he's like, you're an asshole, Frank. He's like, yeah, I know.
I love that part, that dynamic between them, though. They're like, Frank doesn't respect a lot of people. He let Karen into his life. He's starting to let Matt into his life. Micro in season 1, he somewhat let into his life, but it doesn't happen a lot and he's got to respect you. And you can just tell the respect. He knows the kind of monster he is. He's fully embraced and accepted that. He knows the monster he is, and he knows what happens when battle kicks off and what he turns into. And so he knows, like, when Matt was like, "You're an asshole, Frank," he's like, "Yeah, I know." Like, he is fully aware of that. He is very difficult to like, and I think that just makes their relationship even better. It's just they're two guys, the dynamic between the two, and their coldness against everybody else, but they let each other in. I just love it. I could 100% watch a buddy cop movie with these two, a full season of it. Give me Daredevil and Punisher season 2. Like, I love it.
And then you got the weird love triangle going on between Matt, Karen, and Frank as well. And it's like talking about the heartbeats of each of them. It's adrenaline, I'm sure. And then obviously Frank sort of caring a bit about Karen because they have their weird sort of standoff look at each other. And then after she walks out and he's just like, "Stay safe." Doesn't want to say it to her face to save a bit of face, but
Yeah.
yeah, I could watch these two all day long. It's obviously said that Punisher has a bigger role to play in season 2. So I really hope that we're going to get to see that, because the dynamic between these two is almost unmatched, as Lub said, in the MCU. They've got some of the best dynamics, and bouncing off each other is just superb.
JD, any other thoughts on this scene here before we move on?
No, yeah. The Punisher was season 2, man. I can't tell if I don't want Daredevil to rely on the Punisher anymore, or I love their duo so much that I want it more than anything. Like, I don't understand it in my head, but yeah, like, what are we doing? We're like, the Punisher season 2 was possibly the best because of the Punisher. This season, I would say, isn't the best because of the Punisher. He didn't play a huge role, but this finale sure is the best because of the Punisher. Like, you know what I mean? So he has such a giant impact in the Daredevil shows. That's my only thought, yeah, for that scene specifically, but so satisfying as far as action and just the Punisher characterization. There's something about me that is a little irritated with them having to, like, suit up for war, like Captain America's talking about, you got to wear your uniform to war. That makes sense coming from a military man. Well, goddamn, the Punisher, too, is a military man, so I'm kind of like, I'm okay with it at this point, but still, did you really shave your head and shave your face so you can go help the Daredevil? Did you do that really? Because I kind of liked your, like, raggedy look, but that's just...
I thought it was for Karen.
He did it. Oh, that's probably true.
Because he's like, you got a haircut and put some aftershave on. He's like, well, I'm going to see Karen.
He put on after, and Karen was the phone call he got that convinced him to come do all this. So that literally probably was for Karen.
Yeah, you could use a haircut, but I think the women like beards these days. You might as well leave the beard on. Yeah. By the way, Karen coming back just feels like home, dude. Something about her presence feels like freaking Daredevil, dude. Like, I missed her. It's good to have her back. The first time I ever watched Daredevil, it's weird. I found Karen annoying. The second time I loved her. The third time I loved her. Now I love her. Like, I want nothing but Karen, dude. She needs to be a side character.
Nothing but Karen. You heard it here first, babe.
Karen fan complaining to me in a parking lot.
I still find her too self-righteous sometimes. But yeah, she's grown on me a bit as season's gone on. But yeah, there are times when I'm just still like, you're very sanctimonious.
Yes.
Given your history as well. Maybe you shouldn't be as self-righteous as you are, but the character they've written, considering how different she is from the comics, balances well. She balanced well between Foggy, Matt, and Frank. So yeah, I don't have too many complaints these days, but she can still be fucking annoying.
Her dark past reminds me of how much this Daredevil Born Again show was not like the comic Born Again at all. Season 3 Netflix was Daredevil Born Again, and this was not at all. This was Zdarsky, this was Charles Soule.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, I was interested to see your reaction to the change that they made to Cole North from the comics to on here. Because obviously in the comics, he's against corruption. He absolutely hates it. He fights against it. And it made me think if, like, obviously we're led to believe he's now dead since the apartment got blown up. And I think it was supposed to be his shoes dangling from the telephone poles. Although it could have been any number of agents that were dead inside the apartment. But I did wonder if they might save him for season 2 and he would turn on the task force and go against corruption to make him more comic accurate. But it's a very big change from the comics to this. I feel like they just wanted to name drop people from Daredevil comics into this series to sort of just flesh it out a bit.
That's also, I agree with that too. I think it was more of an Easter eggy character, because I also really wanted the comic book Cole North. He did bring a really fun dynamic, another aspect to the conflict that was chaotic in one way, but also made perfect sense in another way. He was, I think, a great character in the comics, and he was nothing like that in this show. He was just like another goon.
Yeah, which was, again, kind of annoying that they just took his name. Unless they have a plan for him, like he saw Daredevil wasn't going to kill him, and maybe he's like, oh, maybe these vigilantes aren't all that bad, and he recovers or something, then he turns a page. But even that, I don't think I'd be stoked on them doing that. It feels weird that they just totally did a totally different character and just use his name. Because he's also a massive physically imposing guy in the comics, too, and he was pretty average everything in this show, so...
And like speaking on the Born Again title, it's like they went out of their way to commit to the Zdarsky comic book run. Let's throw Cole North in there too. His title Born Again is so random, but like let's not do the character Cole North. Let's just name him Cole North.
Yeah, the Born Again title I just think was unnecessary. I guess it's Born Again in the MCU is what they're going for, maybe.
Well,
but
and
when there's an actual story called that, it's I don't know.
But like it made sense for the show. Like I said earlier in the episode, Kingpin was born again fully. Daredevil was born again.
Right.
It makes sense for the show, but it is not the comic at all.
Right.
I think we might be looking too much into it. Like they just give that guy that name to have a little tease to comic book fans, and then we just go run with it and go, oh, we need him to be, in the next season and in the showing up.
I don't need him
force.
to be in the next season. I was just saying maybe that's their plan, or they just are using a name as, like you said, just a little Easter egg nod.
He died off screen though, so
we don't know. He might get reborn like Crossbones or come back as a cyborg or who knows.
Yeah.
So we saw. We don't have to talk about this much, but we've been talking about Fisk's little mini-me, Michael Gandolfini. He worships Fisk, and we saw him take on a totally new image in this episode. I mean, not image literally, but kind of both. All of a sudden, so he's been tight, everything very professional. He's been worshiping Kingpin left and right, and then he's in the scene where he's shaking down whoever it is, the elite, the council, all these people who aren't on Fisk's side. And for this, he decided to take the tie off, unbutton his shirt 4 buttons, show his chest hair with a gold chain. I was like, are you doing the Tony Soprano impression right now? I thought that was kind of goofy, but he's obviously getting his confidence there, kind of like Vic with Penguin, and he's starting to run some stuff too. We see cops just shooting kids in the street and then pulling a beanie over their face and saying it's not a kid, it's a masked vigilante. So we're seeing all these shots of the city falling to hell, and this is what we very quickly. I mean, they shut the power off and boom, we are going to hell in a handbasket.
Full chaos.
Let's start killing each other. So this led right into, the commissioner thinks he's got Kingpin's advisor on his side, but he was being recorded. Kingpin hears what he said about having to stop him, and he decides to try and do the watermelon strength test, but uses the commissioner's head. And we've talked about that at length, but yeah, that was probably the most brutal scene I have seen in Marvel history. It was just... Like Andy said, though, the practical effects were pretty good, and they made sure to linger on it. They made sure we saw his jaw swinging back and forth with the cheek skin sliding on. Like, wow. I'm sure we don't have 2 takes.
Yeah, that's what they did, according to the director. They did 2 takes of it. Apparently the first time, the blood splatter didn't land right for them, so they redid it.
Guy, and man, his head crushed good. So, yeah, they got our solid.
But it was,
Did you get Subject 47?
It was nice to see them play back into Kingpin's physical strength, though, because obviously we saw it in the original Daredevil series. We even saw it in Hawkeye. The fact that when we thought this was technically going to be a different iteration of Kingpin, it wasn't canon that this was the same Kingpin yet. So nice to see them finally play back into that and show us his raw strength.
Yeah. That is part of his characteristics. He has like superhuman strength, and they did a good job at showing that in the Netflix series without it being too unbelievable, really. I mean... He just manhandled people, but yeah, Pin is fully back.
Did he not look bigger as well by the end of the series in terms of when we see him in the first few episodes? He looks like that skinnier, smaller Kingpin.
I didn't know if
it's kind of like the way they did it throughout the whole series. He was eating a lot. He's eating a lot, like he was stretching out his suits, and now I think they shoot from lower down as well to make him look when you look up at him, he looks then physically bigger. And then by this episode, he looks like he's beefed back up to like the original Daredevil Kingpin.
I couldn't tell if I was just getting used to him being skinnier or not, because I thought the same thing. I was like, he kind of looks physically imposing, way more so than the diner scene in episode 1 there, Okay.
I thought his actor was like more on the side of like, I'm not going to start eating a bunch for this role. It's unhealthy. I'm too old for that.
He's like 65.
I wonder if it became like his role as Kingpin became a self-fulfilling prophecy in his mind, and he just started eating more like felt
He got
bigger.
into it.
I'm Kingpin. I'm bigger. I eat more. Like the Heath Ledger there. Not quite as far.
We got into the mental state of him, and by the time they did reshoots and had to redo half the season, he'd put on another 30 pounds.
It's like, hold on, I need to go eat another lunch.
Yeah, no, he's 65 though. He shouldn't be doing that.
That's what I'm saying.
You should not be
It's
dropping
strange.
and gaining 50, 60 pounds for roles at the age of 65. But so respect to you, Vincent. You're good.
I really like the setup to this scene too, where Fisk is playing the recording, and at first you're wondering kind of what's going on. You see Sheila outside, kind of crying because of what she's done, and then when the commissioner gets into the car, and he's like, "Oh, Mario's sick," and then you look, and there's the Punisher tattoos. Oh, fresh ink on her neck, and it's like, oh yeah, like he's totally screwed. But I think Sheila Rivers is kind of an underrated side character. We haven't really talked much about her this season.
Yeah.
But just her kind of like juggling that, trying to stand up what's for right, but also trying not to die / lose her job at the same time. And when the commissioner came up to her in the beginning of the episode, she was like, yeah, I'll vouch for you. Then when he walks away, she kind of gives that look to him, and I was like, oh shit, she's totally going to betray him. And she obviously had the whole thing recorded. So it seemed like, in the beginning of the season, she was pushing back more. And then the more power he got, she just realized, okay,
she gave
I have to play the long game or just fully buy in and just get rid of all my morals so I can survive.
Yeah.
So she was interesting.
Die in season 2 as well.
I don't blame her. I mean,
right. What can you do?
She's going to die if she doesn't, brutally, and her family
I think
too.
she's going to die in season 2.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
When she finally stands up to him.
Yeah.
She's just going to wake up one morning and Frank's going to be on the balcony in the window and just blast her with a shotgun just like last
Frank.
time. All right, real quick. Again, we don't got to... Karen and Matt go fishing for foggy information. Such a stupid scene, by the way. Matt's got gloves on, and he brushes his fingers over engraved letters. Not like... It's recessed lettering with gloves on, and he reads it perfectly. He goes, avocados at law. And I was like, how the hell did you read that? That's not how that works.
I think you just remembered the size.
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Just the image of him with
box.
thick gloves, barely touching it.
Right,
I was like, what the hell? There's no way he could. I know he's Daredevil. He can see. There's no way he needed to run his finger over that. Karen knows you're Daredevil. You got to play
his powers increase every season.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Yeah, I know. That's fair. But yeah, we learned that Red Hook is a free port, meaning it's out of jurisdiction of the city and the country. So that's what Vanessa has been storing all of her extremely expensive art and has been able to skip import fees and all this stuff, which I don't know how legitimate. Obviously, it's not legitimate at all, but how realistic that would be. But that's the whole point of this. So obviously a very valuable thing, a thing that's not a part of the U.S. in the U.S. For a drug kingpin or just a kingpin, of the underworld there. So Foggy was about to get that shut down or something, didn't know what he was getting into, and it was about to blow up the spot and have that exposed as a free port. Vanessa had him killed. I still think there's more to the story. I think that's another layer that we uncovered here, but I think there's still more to be uncovered. But this was weird. I don't remember if I was talking to you about it, Andy, or if it was Greg. But the cuts in this scene was odd. Like, they were sitting there, they were about to attack the port at night, and Karen's kind of talking him down. And then all of a sudden we're just back in a totally different place, and we're not talking about attacking the port. I don't know, maybe I missed a transition scene, but it felt very awkwardly cut. So I didn't know if that was a part of the reshoots and they just kind of threw something together there. But it felt disjointed to me. I don't know if anybody else felt that way. Maybe I missed a scene.
Right. It felt like Feige did the most tinkering with the first 2 episodes and the finale. And everything in between.
Sense.
You know what I mean?
The same directors did 1, 8, and 9.
Yeah. And they worked on Loki and Moon Knight, which I liked 9. 1 wasn't my favorite. But anyway, so we got some Matt and Karen talk. Not a lot to get into there. Matt talks about letting the dark power in. Once Foggy died, he didn't know who he was anymore. We've seen Matt go through these mental struggles in previous seasons of Daredevil, so this wasn't really anything new or groundbreaking. These are conversations we've kind of had them have.
When he said we need an army, at first I thought, is he going to call the Defenders? But then by the end of the episode, you see it's just the people of New York.
That's
really
exciting.
Yeah, that's
a few cops at a bar.
Detective Kim and Cherry and a couple of rookies.
that's juicy, though.
Let's go for it.
You got to think of the Defenders, but then I was like, well, he's doing the Shadowlands suit. Is he literally going to have the hand as an army somehow? That'd be pretty crazy. Can you imagine him going across seas and like dominating the hand or whatever, taking leadership, going full Shadowland? That would be sick. But as far as an army goes, I think that's got to be the Defenders.
Well, yeah, it has to be.
It makes sense. So New York, obviously this is rocking all of New York, so this should be affecting Peter Parker too. Go ahead and get me onto that.
Thunderbolts?
Well, that, I guess, too. But I'm thinking, so Kristen Ritter, again, coming back into season 2, she's in New York. Luke Cage is in New York. These heroes are in New York, and New York is being taken over by Kingpin. This is a perfect opportunity to have him bring in. Matt's already worked with these heroes before, so he has these connections. It wouldn't make sense for him to not reach out to them at this point.
Dude, and it's like a way better Defenders plot. Like, that's a reason to bring the Defenders together.
Yeah,
could you imagine Kingpin as the main villain of that Defenders show? That's worthy of Defenders.
Right. With Punisher, though.
Ooh.
The Punishers with the Defender set up. And I think we're getting Punisher versus Bullseye in season 2. I still think that's coming down the line. But, yeah. What's up?
So we know Kingpin can't be in the movies, but with Thunderbolts coming out and the whole movie basically being in New York, do we think the martial law will tie into that movie?
That was my point.
Yeah, this is something I discussed on my episode earlier. That is this gonna affect Thunderbolts in any way? And I don't think they're going to play into it too much. I think it's probably going to be set maybe a little bit before Daredevil. Or,
so you think they say something, or they just kind of leave it alone?
I think
if it's set before.
With the reshoots and stuff, they probably couldn't tie it together.
It can't be set before. I don't think it's set before. I think we're going to hear something about it. They're in New York. They already took down like over a dozen vigilantes, and now you're having an official vigilante group start operating. So we have to at least hear mention of it. Like,
that's true.
This is going against the mayor's rule, but it's government sanctioned something.
And that too, though, it's the mayor's rule. So Andy brought this up. We were talking about this too. He's the mayor of New York. We still got
like,
governor of New York. We still have much
Yeah.
higher powers. Yeah, it's not even the state of New York. So there's higher ranking officials that could easily appeal this martial law. Obviously, he's doing it corruptly and probably not in the way the system is supposed to have it done. But it's hard for me to picture the Thunderbolts mentioning, the mayor of New York, we're under martial law, but we're operating normally. I don't know. For some reason, I'm not expecting them to mention this. Even though it 100% makes sense for them to be a part of it, I'm not expecting them to mention the martial law.
That's annoying.
Ignore it.
I don't expect them to either, but they absolutely should. That's what's annoying about it.
Yeah, it is a continuity kind of hole they're going to have here. But yeah, I would be surprised if they mention the Mayor Fisk. They probably can't. They probably can't say the word Mayor Fisk because I don't know how far those movie rights go. But I'd be surprised if they even mention martial law. Or maybe it's a one sentence, well, people are going into martial law, this is happening, the world's going to hell. But
well, what's annoying about him not being able to show up into a movie is it would make perfect sense for him to have the Thunderbolts in his squad, because how does he have non-powered people stopping vigilantes? Dozens of vigilantes. He would need like a group of powered people to stop vigilantes, and that's just like the comics, and they were called the Thunderbolts, and it was the Devil's Reign era, and he just was mayor, and he outlawed vigilantes, and he had Thunderbolts
right there.
That's what's crazy. It makes so much sense, but it's not going to happen.
I will say, when we got that scene of him walking through the cages of the vigilantes and everything with Vanessa, he didn't have the most impressive lineup in there.
There was an old man.
There was some old lady. There was an old guy, which those were the rich people, I think, that went against him.
I was going to say, I don't think they were, apart from Jack and Frank, the rest of them were just like the rich, powerful people we saw from like the party scenes.
Yeah.
So he's just keeping some of them hostage to make sure that they're funneling the money that he needs into Red Hood and stuff.
Yeah, I think they're like mixed in there, but I think as far as, I think maybe they've taken down people like Frogman or whatever that frog dude was, and She-Hulk, vigilantes like that are like D tier. But I would have been cool to see like a bigger name. Obviously, we saw Frank in there, but that was intentional. But we've got to see some hints at some new vigilantes too with this stuff.
Given how many there are, I mean, when you're talking just about the roster that we know about of vigilantes, when you're talking about Ms. Marvel, Kate Bishop, Moon Knight, what the hell are Strange and Wong doing in all of this as well? It's just, there's so many unanswered questions by having this that you have to, in a way, so it has to move to the big screen somehow in terms of the effects of this. But at the same time, I think they're just going to glaze over it because you've only got like Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and I think maybe one more project outside of the TV series before we hit Doomsday. And so I think they're just going to glaze over this like nothing's happened. And it's really going to pissed me off that they don't have, considering they were like, we're past the phase 4 COVID lack of interconnectivity period, and now we can connect everything again, especially with Captain America and Eternals now getting looped in. And then you're just going to flat out ignore one of the biggest things that could possibly happen, which is a lockdown of New York and a law against vigilantes. And it's just like, it's going to annoy me that they're not going to connect it, but I don't think I just can't see them doing that with Thunderbolts is too big of its own thing to then connect it to what's happened in this.
Right. And I'm not giving an excuse. All I'm going to say is it's the last half Chapek era project here. So that's the last half excuse I'm going to give you for ignoring certain setups to connect with the future products. That's it. And I'm still not sure I'm giving you that pass because, like you said, Andy, I'm going to be pretty frustrated with it too if we just gloss over it. But that's the only half grace I can give them is it's still a lingering kind of rescued story here. That's all I got for you, though, Kevin. Get it together.
Sometimes I feel like we're asking for too much, but at the same time, Marvel set up these expectations. Like if you want to expand to TV shows and movies at the same time,
so well said.
You need to tie it together.
This is where you are. If you want to go be Sony, but you're the MCU right now, so let's figure it out and let's put out quality after quality after quality. We talked about Frank getting captured, but just loved it when they're all greasing this guy up and he's like, you admire me, you bunch of fucking clowns. Starts going Frank off, you know my pain, like Andy said. Just screaming at him. Love it. And he is so good at getting beaten to crap sitting in a chair tied up. He's mastered that art. He did it with season 1 of Punisher, with Agent Orange. He did it earlier in that season with one of the police commissioners, I believe, in his home, made him think that he was, stuck and trapped. And I think he did it.
Season 2 of Daredevil when he gets captured by the Irish.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So he's done it 4 times now. Again, very good at it. He was very calm and collected. That guard was an idiot. So we got that post-credit scene, and I guess they really are just that in love with him. After he killed like 15 of them, he's like, hey, man, can I shake your hand? Very nice to meet you. Like, really? You're going to shake his hand, you idiot? You deserve to have your arm snapped after that. That was crazy. I can't believe how easy that was.
But when he was tied up talking shit, I was thinking, these guys are still fanboying over him. They're probably like,
100%.
God, he's so badass. Like, he's tied up in front of all of us, and he's still talking shit. Like, oh my God, I love him.
Oh, I'm stabbing him. You're my hero, Frank. Like, he just fully in love with this fool.
Yeah, at the end, at the post-credit scene, I was like, he could just sweet talk his way out of this, probably. Like just, hey, and the guy's like, oh, hey, I like you. But then he just immediately goes to violence and snaps his arm in half. It's like, or you could do that.
Which, to be fair, they're using his stuff to just murder and be dirtbags, people who he hates, cops, that whole government murdered his family. He's not going to be cool with you guys just taking on his logo and doing this. So
I'll ask, Daredevil season 3 or Punisher season 1? What would you watch next?
Ooh. Oh, that's tough. I'm going to go Daredevil season 3, though. Bullseye in there is so good.
Probably, yeah.
You think so?
But it's close. I love Punisher season 1. I really do. But Daredevil 3 has more substance to it. There's a lot of good talks with the priest and his mental wrestling, and Bullseye's incredible in it. So, yeah. And Kingpin is.
I'm still surprised that when Frank goes into the task force to take them on, that he just doesn't go in more strapped up to take more of them out. Yeah. Like, I hate these guys anyway. Why don't I just take out as many as I can before deliberately getting captured? And just walks in with like one gun or something. Well, not even that, doesn't he? He just the first guy puts the gun to the back of his head and he just takes them on from there.
Yeah.
But I counted what they must have been using, the rubber bullets in the shotgun, and I counted that he took 5 shots before they finally got him down and then beat the shit out of him on the floor. This guy is like, for someone who is a normal human being, takes more punishment and beating up. And I know there are some people out there that can probably take that as well, but the outrageous amount that he can take in punishment is unreal. And then to still sit there and shit talk them is part of why Frank Castle is so epic.
Dude, they were like 4 feet away from him, firing those beanbags at him.
I mean, any normal person, you'd be down after one shot and you're not getting back up for a while.
Probably break a rib.
That's fucked you up, yeah. And Frank's just like, give me more! I'd take it on.
Well, Daredevil season 2, his face is jacked up the whole season. Yeah. It finally starts to heal, and then he gets into another fight, and it's all bruised and messed up again. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it was at the trial. It's finally starting to heal a little bit, and then he has that prison fight where he just gets torn. And then he fights Kingpin after the prison fight, who beats the living crap out of him. So to wrap up, the episode here, Kingpin finds Heather. She says, "Are you all right, sir?" And goes and kisses his ass, and I just knew she couldn't be trusted. So I don't know if she's been behind him the whole time. I feel like Kingpin searched her out intentionally, and that she was kind of in on it and knew she was dating Matt. I don't know. I don't know what's going there, but she's obviously
Playing both sides.
Yeah, she's fully in Kingpin's camp now, and she left Matt dying in the hospital, so she can go to hell for all I care.
Fuck her.
And it's
She
not
doesn't
just,
understand.
what?
Sorry, she doesn't understand him like Karen does. When Karen was saying, the light and the dark, the two different sides of you. Me and Foggy both understand that, and I was thinking in that moment, Heather doesn't understand that. She thinks these masked vigilantes are little boys who have these issues, and now they're taking them out on other people. So that was kind of a cool dynamic between Karen and Heather, where Karen is the one true girl for him. You know what I mean?
Karen, it's the drugs.
Loved that. Take that, Heather. Yeah. No, but anyway, yeah, she's just in the whole thing from last episode. Daredevil didn't save me. I saved me. Like, okay, maybe Daredevil should take back that save and see how well you do there, lady.
One-on-one with Bullseye or Muse.
Anyone. Anyway, you don't like Heather. And then, yeah, Kingpin announces his Safe Streets protocol, banning vigilantism, even though that was already banned. I'm pretty sure it's illegal. And enforcing martial law with 8 p.m. curfews. And he drops the combination of two very popular New York phrases. Never forget, I love New York. Hell of a sign off there, Kingpin. So cheesy. But it makes sense because Fisk, like that whole construction thing. I said I was going to do things, and now I'm doing it. He's filling in a pothole. It's like, oh my God, you're really playing the propaganda news outlet there. That's solid.
It was so creepy as well. He just pauses and tries to do that awkward smile at the end. I love America. I love
so
New York.
Unsettling.
It's been bugging me since that I can't remember what film or scene it was from. But there's another one where it's just like some really corrupt guy, and he's just like gives some awkward speech, and at the end he pauses and he's like, I love America. And that's kind of it. I can't remember what it's from. It's bugging me, but it just gave off those vibes so much, and it's just like cringe.
Yeah, it was pretty cheesy there. So yeah, they've taken over New York. Matt's going to Josie's to get some drunk cops to help him take it back. And the ending shot was kind of awkward there of just Daredevil standing in the bar and nobody's saying anything, and they're all just looking at him, and the camera pans out and it's still just staring at Daredevil not moving. So yeah, and then we got the dope post-credit scene, which is a nice little surprise there. So final thoughts on this thing. Actually, I did want to ask you guys, was the Foggy plot, JD, was the Foggy plot used well? Was it wrapped up well enough for you? Did you get enough answers? Or this whole Foggy thing, was it worth it?
I just don't think it's wrapped up. I think he is coming. Didn't they confirm his ass to be in season 3? I mean, season 2?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So that could be a flashback, I guess. But I mean, there's the whole comic thing. The address said the issue number that was the life or death of Foggy Nelson. So I think that's going to be another season 2 thing. I don't think that's wrapped up. But fuck, maybe it is. Maybe he's just dead, which is whatever, too.
Kind of sad.
Which would be sad. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
He is confirmed for season 2. Sorry, just to
right.
Yeah,
so,
he is.
I mean, but the actor is right. Could be a flashback. I just don't see.
They didn't really tease it though.
But
like
exactly at all.
Got was
that's what makes me think maybe he's just dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Still going with him being alive, but yeah.
He was bleeding out on the sidewalk.
Right.
Catch up.
Well, have you seen Triple X? There's the blood dart bullets that make it looks like you died.
Bullseye was in on it.
Best actor.
Double cross.
Strange was chilling in his corner, making it look like he was dead, working some magic there. He's in on it.
But also, so I guess we know what the Punisher special should be about. I was kind of looking forward to maybe like go back to the Vietnam days in this cool arc called Born. Andy might have read that one, but
I think he was born in Vietnam, but
yeah, they did nothing but set up stuff, right? So the Punisher special is probably about that. Maybe it does do something different, but also Kingpin went full Devil's Reign. Like, that's it. So they're doing the whole thing. I can't wait for season 2, and we are complaining it didn't wrap up a story, but we don't have to wait even a year. Like, it's going to come out next year, so that's all right.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, well, let's rate the finale. We'll rate the season, and then I want to ask you guys a question before we wrap this up here at the very end. But my finale rating here, and it's not a big deal. I didn't think too much into this, but as a finale as a whole, I gave it a 8.3 out of 10. So it had a lot of stuff it could have improved on, but I was very satisfied and I enjoyed it. Lub, you got a rating for me?
4.
Ooh,
how about that?
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. It was probably my favorite episode of the season.
Okay.
I can't remember which one's which, but I did like the bank robbery episode. That was probably like high 7s for me. And then I forgot which one, but there was another that was pretty close to the finale.
Okay. Andy, what do you got?
8.1.
Oh, all right.
Tough crowd.
We'll still take it. No, that's good. That's
Just
good.
kidding now.
finale as a whole, I think I'm gonna just go with, it didn't wrap shit up. I'm gonna go with 8.3. Season as a whole,
Yeah, start us
probably
off. What do you got?
probably 8.3. No, I
8.3
think
as a
it's right
whole.
below season 3, Daredevil, Netflix. Maybe not, though, actually, if I really consider the second half of that season is so good. But anyway, I'm very satisfied. As far as MCU Disney Plus shows, this is the best so far.
Okay. Andy, what's your overall season rating?
That's what I gave it on my show. I think I should be fair and stick to it, even though I did watch it again before I went to bed and coming on here. So I think, yeah, it's
You
definitely a
dreamed about
product of two different things being meshed together. I think that's obvious from the start and end in the middle bits. And so therefore, and like JD said, it just pisses me off how much was left open. You don't really wrap anything up. Everything was a setup for season 2 in a way. You have to take into account this was one long season they've cut into 2 to make 2 seasons, so you kind of have to go with it on that respect. Have to take that into consideration. But yeah, I don't think the season as a whole quite pushes up compared to its predecessors.
So we got confirmed, by the way, March 2026, season 2 drops. So less than a year. So that's at least nice. We don't have a big wait, but yes, I agree with everything you guys said on that. Lub, season rating?
I think they did a solid job of trying to keep the same vibes as Netflix while also bringing in new fans. I feel like maybe if you didn't watch the Netflix series, you might be slightly lost in the beginning. But the struggle of Matt versus Daredevil was a cool dynamic. I know we didn't get a lot of Daredevil this season, but some of the even just Matt action scenes were pretty cool. And I did like that storyline throughout. So I think I'm going to give it an 8.1. Just over an 8. Just over an 8.
That's hella funny. Because I did an 8.4 for the finale initially, which you had, but I changed it last minute to 8.3. In my overall season rating, I wanted to do just over an 8, but I didn't think it quite earned an 8.1, so I gave it an 8.05 out of 10. So we're pretty just, I think it satisfied most of my wants as far as before the show came out. It gave me entertaining Daredevil and Punisher back in action. Again, like we've said over and over, it lacked on a lot of stuff, and I don't like the layout, but the whole split deal, so I won't reiterate all that. But overall, I would give it a B, at least a B minus. I think they did it.
How specific are you getting about this now? We're going into pi decimal places for series now.
It was 0.046. I rounded up for you guys. But no, yeah, they did a Daredevil season and they made it feel like Netflix continuation. So that alone makes me happy. Once we get into those Netflix seasons, though, so ranking it, all 4 seasons of Daredevil now, I'll kick us off here, but I've got season 2 at the top. I've got season 1 just below it. I've got season 3 below season 1. And then I got Daredevil Born Again right below season 3. Season 3, I got 8.3, 1, 8.9, season 2, 9.1. Season 2 is incredible. So it's in last out of all the seasons, but it was still a welcome entry. Lub, since you're giving me all these looks and faces, what do you got to say over there?
I want to hear Andy. I want to hear Andy's first.
All right, yeah, get scared.
Just before I give my run, it's interesting of how it's the general public consensus is when you put those into order. Because what's interesting and I think maybe if they take like certain website ratings into account as well, that season 1 is generally considered to be at the top, season 3 is number 2, and then season 2 is actually third out of them, which is interesting. Season 2 is top for me, quite by far. It has to be.
My man.
Frank and the Hand story. I'm not necessarily a big fan of Elektra, but I think the chemistry that Matt and Elektra have makes up for that. But the Hand and the Punisher storyline is pretty epic. And so that's a clear number 1 for me by quite some distance. I have season 3 in second place.
Ooh, Lub, take that.
I enjoyed it more than season 1, to be fair. I actually had to watch season 1 twice because the first time round it took me 2 goes to get beyond the first 2 episodes. Maybe that's because I was a bit of a stoner back in those days and I used to fall asleep a lot. So it took me a couple of attempts to get into it. But yeah, and then season 1 I rate third. It's still enjoyable, but I tend to like shows more when you have a bit of time with them and you have a bit of an establishment of the characters and a bit of the lore to them as well. So TV shows I tend to like more when you've got a few seasons to them and you have a bit of background that you can recall on for their stories. Not just like for comic book stuff or anything like that, but I mentioned it before, like Stargate. I prefer Stargate when you get more into it, because then you've got backstory of seasons you can rely on to build things up and build up a bit of lore from it. And so I think it was the same for me with Daredevil in terms of season 1. It wasn't quite there for me just yet. And the fact that I know a lot of people liked it, but you don't even get him in the suit till the very last episode. And I know season 3, we didn't see him in the suit either, but there's the backstory there, and it was kind of like season 3, I think his outfit, yep, it's a callback to season 1, but it was maybe a bit of a call to the black-suited Daredevil, even though it wasn't a black-suited Daredevil.
Right.
This season does go in last by quite a distance. I think I've got all the original 3 9s and above in terms of ratings, and for this one to then be in the 7s, for me, like I said, 7.8, it doesn't really come close to the others. There's a lot of difference to it, you can tell that. The fact that this season as well doesn't spend a lot of time on Matt's religious side, I think is a massive impact on his character, and something that the Netflix series did really well. They balance the Matt to Daredevil to religion ratio of his character, which this season didn't really touch on at all.
Nothing. We had no mention of his Catholic faith at any point in this season. And again, I'm not Catholic per se, but it's a crucial part of his story. So I was pretty bummed to have his faith, his trust in the Catholic faith just totally gone. It was a great part of season 3. His conversations with the priest and his losing faith and everything, and what he believed God had him there for, and all this stuff. It's a crucial part of his character. So yeah, JD and I were talking about that, I think, when we covered the comic. But yeah, there was a big hole in this season. I don't know if it's a Disney thing or what, but I did
wonder that. Yeah, I did wonder if, like, the modern state of affairs, whether because it's Disney, they don't want to touch on religion too much.
Yeah,
but it's not like Disney doesn't like touching stuff and fucking it up in the first place in terms of its value. I'm surprised that they didn't go into that a bit more, and I expect. Yeah. I would hope season 2 they dive into it a little bit more with reshoots and stuff. But I don't think they're going to. I think they're just, because it's Disney, they just want to pure concentrate on the action and that side of it.
If it's got to be, it's intentional. If they don't have it in season 2, you don't just take that out for 2 full seasons. That's crazy. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Lub, tell us why you disagree with these rankings here. I see you over there.
So first of all, I have never seen Daredevil season 3. Get that out of the way first. But I did finish season 2 before Born Again, for the record.
Like the night before?
No, like a week before. But I finished it. But so Born Again is 3rd for me, obviously. And then I have season 2 as number 2. I like season 1 more than season 2, which obviously you guys disagree with, but if you know from the podcast, I do like a coming of age kind of story where it's kind of the beginning of it and
you're
finding
a big
his
Marvel
way.
fan, aren't you? Yeah.
No, but Fisk in the first season is really what gets it for me.
Yeah.
And then season 2, obviously, I have season 1 like a 9.1, and season 2 is probably like an 8.5, 8.6. So, because I don't like Matt. Matt's kind of annoying in season 2. The whole love triangle with Elektra and Karen takes up a lot of time, where he's kind of going back and forth, and he's got that dog in him where he's, really going back and forth. But I don't know, Matt, just the way, I feel like they almost did a better job of juggling that dynamic in Born Again than in season 2, where he just kind of got slightly annoying to me.
For a blind man, Matt knows fit women. He doesn't need to see them.
He has a good batting average.
He ain't blind. Yeah, as those memes
smells
go, that man can see. So I will say, yeah. I was going to say,
if you want a controversial opinion, I like the Defenders series better than this season of Daredevil.
Wow.
I think I'm one of the few big advocates of the Defenders series. I know a lot of people weren't thrilled on it, but personally, I actually quite loved all of the dynamics of the Defenders together. And I so wish Punisher had been involved in that series, even if he popped up in the last episode when they go to take on the Hand and he just turned up for that fight. Matt's just like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I've been listening to what you guys are doing. I thought I'd join in." So yeah, I like the Defenders series more than this season.
So I don't, but I will say, so when I first watched The Defenders, I didn't think much of it. I thought there was some really cool concept. I loved the villains. I feel like we've talked about this at some point. I loved the villains, though. The whole setup and the different 5 fingers of the hand and the different cultures of each villain, too, and everything. On my rewatch that I did a couple years ago, I really enjoyed it, actually. I enjoyed it way more than I did the first time around. I think it still has its issues. There's still its corny moments. There's still a little iffy here and there. I don't like Iron Fist much at all, even though he does have actually some pretty funny scenes, more enjoyable scenes than he does in his first season. But yeah, I still enjoyed this show more than Defenders.
How much homework is required to watch before the Avengers?
Defenders, you just first 2 seasons of Daredevil, I think.
And
That's it?
Well, and Jessica Jones, Luke Cage,
they
all
all
that,
get
but-
they all
Yeah,
have a
that's what I'm
series
saying.
before the defend. Like I think Jessica Jones and Daredevil have 2 seasons before the Defenders, and everything else just has their first seasons.
Iron Fist, Luke
But there's
Cage.
only like a couple of nods to those seasons in the opening episode when they all kind of first meet each other.
But it's also the interconnected characters. All
Yeah.
the side characters come from every series as well. So if you haven't watched any of them, you're going to be like, "Who is this person?" You're not going to know the dynamic they've got. And they don't obviously mix maybe too much the side characters, apart from towards the end when they're all in the police station for a while. But
Right.
I still think if you haven't watched any of them, then you're not going to know. Like, why is Claire with Luke Cage? Why was he in prison at the start of the series? Or why was he being released from prison at the start of the series? If you haven't watched their series, you're not going to know those. So in a way, you could really go into it blind and just accept it for what it is. Like when I used to watch the Flash crossover episodes every year, and I've not watched Supergirl, so I don't know who any of these characters are. So you can get away without doing some of it, lub. But at the same point, if you really want to immerse yourself in it, watch them first, and don't take 8 years to watch them.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, I've never even finished Luke Cage. I've only seen like the first 2 or 3 episodes of that. I didn't watch Jessica Jones until after Defenders. I think I watched both seasons of Iron Fist for some reason. I don't think I liked either one of them, but I kept watching it. Not sure why. The second season was a little better, as I recall. But anyways, overall, all to say, I forgot where we were going. Oh, what you need to watch before Defenders. And then ranking the Defenders, you had it over Born Again. Oh, okay. Now I remember. So, Love, back to season 1, and the reason why, and sorry, we'll wrap this up here, but I just think there's a lot more rough edges in it that they kind of smoothed out over the next couple seasons. There are some amazing moments, and Kingpin, it might be his best season, honestly. But the Daredevil aspect of it, like you said, we don't get him until that final thing. I didn't like his look in the finale. I thought his fight with the Kingpin at the very end was pretty goofy, and his final finishing punch where he says, "This is my city," it all felt very CW-ish, not quite as the same quality as the rest of the stuff. So the finale didn't land for me. And there are a couple other things I had issues with. So that's the reason for
the
me
hallway
that
scene?
I have it. Well, of course, the hallway scene. And that was like episode 1. That it's iconic all-time scene right there. Incredible. And his exhaustion fighting and everything through it, it's amazing. So, there's great stuff in it. Again, I got it as an 8.9, but I think season 2 is more well-honed.
And it's got Frank.
I think JD died, so we won't get his rankings. I thought he went to the bathroom, but I think it's been like 10 minutes now.
I'm going to say he says Born Again 3, 1, 2.
No way. 2 is last?
No, from bottom to top.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the hell? I totally disagree. I would guess he goes 2, 3, 1, Born Again.
I thought he might have. I think definitely season 2 he would have top because he said it, I think, earlier. And I thought he would have maybe season 1 second, season 3 third.
Yeah.
Because the way he was
Love, you
talking
gotta watch
about
season
half
3.
of season 3.
I got to watch it, I guess.
It's real, bro. Bullseye is just one of the best characters. He's amazing in it. He is really amazing.
Hello, Karen.
Hello, Karen. Yeah. That was a nice
Maybe that was my issue with season 2, though, because I watched it right after season 1, and I was like, damn, this is a lot of Daredevil. That was kind of my issue with this season, too, where I finished season 2 a week before, and I wasn't excited when the episode came out, but every time when I started it, I was like, oh, yeah, like, this is good. You know what I mean? Or I wasn't excited, but when it started, I was right back in.
Yeah. I forget what it was most recently, but
Dune Prophecy, maybe.
oh, and shout out to Corono Comics. Sorry, man, I have not been checking the chat. We got a little carried away here, but he said David has a face I can trust. Solid rating. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, that's an
It's
untrustworthy.
all right. Forget about the rest of us. It's all right.
And then, sorry, I don't know which one you're referencing there. He said, I like that. Thought I was the only one that liked them all together. Maybe that's the Defenders.
Defenders.
Yeah, probably about the Defenders there. So there you go, Andy.
Andy.
Let's wrap it up. We've had a long night here. Andy, you got to, I guess, get your day going there. But
Yeah, I'm about to go to bed.
It's like
Danny's
7
starting
a.m.
to
my
play.
time now. I've been up
Yeah.
half the night. It's
The sun rose.
it's 11 p.m. here. We're ready for some sleep. That's funny. Andy, why don't you tell the fine people at home where they can find you and support you, sir?
Thank you very much, guys, for getting me on to chat Daredevil. You know how much I love these characters and Frank and stuff, so I really appreciate you getting me on to chat this. Galactical Podcast, you can find us across Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your stuff. It's been a very busy few weeks for me. I've almost had like 2 episode drops a week recently. As we mentioned last week, big anniversary episode, second anniversary episode, 5 podcasts coming together for a bit of fun, and David won the Star Wars quiz, so if you want to see how that happened, coming back from the dead as well. He was
on
like
an
3-0
acolyte.
he was like 3-0 behind as well and came back to win it.
Damn.
So if you want to see how that happens, rock up and see the episode. Join me on tomorrow, Sunday, actually. Well, it's tomorrow for me, it's still Saturday. Sorry, Friday night for you guys, but Clan Brandalorian, open-ended, open topic Star Wars chat. We're going to be chatting, obviously, probably about Celebration news, but just join in. It was a really big one that we got to do last time. Loads of people coming and interacting, so that's always good. And stay tuned, because you're going to see Lub's face in a few weeks' time on the show as well. He's coming on for an episode of Andor.
Yes.
To make up for the fact that he missed the anniversary episode. So I'll be psyched to get Lub back on for that, because it's always a good time with Lub. So thank you, guys.
Oh yeah, thank you, Andy. It's always a good time to have you on here, man. We always have good conversations. Andy's been one of the day one podcast friends we made once we started this thing here. So Love gives good conversations too, but
yeah, he's all right. He's all right. He's a good guy.
It's more special Andy's here, but Love's around most of the time. I've taken him for granted. Now, Love, thank you as well.
I'm going on by myself, the Galactic Core podcast. You're not invited.
You know what, JD? You know what JD thinks of that? He left. He's about sick of you. Thank you, JD, for co-hosting with us tonight. I know you're doing your Sue Storm impression. It's very nice. And thank you all for joining us here and listening to our coverage of Daredevil Born Again Season 1. Stay tuned for a possible Season 2 and Season 3 combo episode. Andy will be joining us. If you want it to come quicker, shoot some DMs to Caleb there. And we will see you next time on Why So Sidious, a Nerd podcast.